Welcome back to In the Huddle. I'm your host, David Igono. I'm joined by far end JT Thomas, linebacker, 94, 95. Quarterback supreme, Willie Edwards, 1984, 1988. And one and only Scott Gyorko, hometown hero, linebacker, 2000, 2004. So before we get into Maryland versus WVU, before we get into the good, the bad, and the whoa, what just happened, let's talk about players of the week. Scott, start us off. Who's your player of the week?
Player of the week, I was going to go with Clint Trickett. It's hard to deny that he did not have a good game because he had the second greatest game in West Virginia passing history. But I'm going to go with Nick Kwiatkowski. 12 tackles for loss. It seemed like he was everywhere on the field. Had a crucial play down in the red zone, shot the gap and tackled for loss, and 2 pass breakups. So I mean, it seemed like he was everywhere on the field.
Yeah, I feel like he's the heart of defense, and if that D line can play a little bit better and keep him untouched, he can make even more of an impact for the defense. Willie, what about you?
I'm going with Kevin White. He had 13 catches for 200 and I think 16 yards. He catches everything that's thrown to him, and he's a big target. He's physical. He goes up and catches the jump balls, and he'll be an easy mixed match for anybody that's not that height, that's 6'3". So that's my player of the week.
I saw some wheels on him too. He looked like I know we're not supposed to say this, but he looked like Larry Fitzgerald a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just motoring down the field.
It might have been the hair.
It probably was the hair.
He caught that slant pass and was gone.
Oh, yeah.
He's gone. I haven't seen that speed in him ever.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I tweeted this, the fact that Coach Hogerson said to him, hey, for him to elevate his game, he needed to make big catches like that and be able to get to the goal line. And I thought he did that with that one catch. I mean, I think he is a guy that is kind of receiving that message that, hey, if I want to be the guy, I got to be productive.
Yeah. Who's your player?
My guys, I'm always going to be a little different now. My guys will be the receiving core. I thought all the guys did a good job of less drop passes than we had in the previous games. The guys did a great job. So I think all three of the guys, Mario, Thompson, and White, I thought they all did a great job in terms of possessing the ball and going upfield with the ball.
Yeah, and one of the things that we talked about before we started here, Mario has turned into Super Mario and jumping over guys that he should not be jumping over, which bodes well going into the colder weather part of the season and just honestly in conference play where one of the things I tweeted about, you need different guys to step up. Okay, Clint is, I don't know what he's doing, but he's doing it right. Kevin White, same thing. So somebody else has to step up. And the receiving core is doing that.
Yeah, if the defense is going to primarily try to stop Kevin White, which they haven't done so far, right, the other side of the field's got to be open up, and you got to make plays.
Right, and I'm waiting for Da'Kiel Shorts to step up. We saw some flashes of brilliance with him in a couple of games last year, and in the first couple of games this year. So I'm looking for him to step up and make some plays also.
And I know early on we were talking about Smallwood and thinking that he was going to be more of a slot guy, but I thought he ran the ball well. Yeah, I thought he was very productive in terms of getting the ball upfield and making some big plays. So he's one guy I think is going to add to that receiving component of it. So Clint will have that receiving and a change-up between him and Russell Shell and running the ball.
Good point. That's a good point. So Maryland, West Virginia, 40-37. Josh Lambert field goal to win it at the final gun, right? An even performance. Honestly, there was a lot of good,
Absolutely.
but there's a lot of things that keep coming up. JT, take us away.
Consistency in terms of defense. We got to be consistent in terms of watching the deep ball. I mean, the guys, we got beat deep here and there. However, I thought they did a better job composing themselves in the first half opposed to the second half. Offense, I thought did a great job early on. This is the second week that we've gone down and scored in the first drive. We did it against Alabama, and I thought Russell Shell is showing us that, hey, Owen Smith talked about having an identity. I think Russell Shell is starting to be that guy to say, hey, we want to run the ball. And I thought he did a good job of that. And I thought Trickett did a great job of managing the game. He did a great job.
Well, I think the offensive line did a great job this past week because, as you saw, any running back they put in the game, they gained yards and they were successful. So, you put Russell Shell in, he ran the ball well. Smallwood ran the ball well. And you put Andrew Bowie in, and, he was the second leader rushing the game. So that comes back to the offensive line. And when you can stick any running back in that game, and they're successful and they're gaining yards, then the offensive line must be doing a good job.
Nearly 200 yards rushing. As a great performance, I think, by the offensive line. We ran 108 plays. I mean, how many teams can ever say they ran over 100 plays?
Right. Double what some
Yeah. I mean, we had the ball time possession was a good 10 minutes more than what Maryland did. Mm-hmm. The only problem I saw with our offense was the turnovers. Yep, got 4 turnovers, 1 interception, 3 fumbles. Got to hold on to the ball.
Right. You can't have turnovers against good teams. If you turn the ball over against, like it did against Alabama, we turned the ball over and we saw the results of that. If you turn the ball over against Oklahoma, they're going to make you pay for it. If you looked at the game when they played last week, their offense played on a short field the whole time because they caused turnovers. So, again, our offense, like against Alabama, we're going to have to sustain drives. We're going to have to control the ball. And then once we get in the red zone, we're going to have to put points on the board. And mainly we want to put touchdowns on the board and not field goals.
Yeah, our red zone offense needs to get a higher percentage of touchdowns and not just field goals and even no points.
Right.
But our offense has scored on in every single quarter of every game so far.
Yeah, one of the points that I saw watching the game, you know what? It's not about points. It's really not about yards. It's not even about controlling the clock per se. It's about giving the defense a rest. That defense, we'll get to it, but that defense is not, they're not there yet, which basically means that sometimes they make great plays, a la Darryl Worley getting a pick or Kwiatkowski making Lord knows how many tackles behind the line of scrimmage. Sometimes when you're up, run the ball.
Right.
Not because you need yards, not because you need an identity, but you need to run the ball so that you can give your team, your defense, your special teams a breather.
Right.
For me, one of the things that really, you touched on it, that O-line, I mean, I'm going to say it now. I mean, I hope that I'm wrong. In the plus side, Quentin Span's going first or second day of the draft, in my opinion. Because just how he's just, when they've been given a chance to just push that line forward. And when you can run the ball, whether it's Charles Sims, Rush Rochelle this year, it doesn't matter. If you're a grad student or if you're Wendell Smallwood, you're going to get yards if you look for the holes.
Right.
I kind of like what Shane and Dawson's going here. I mean, we had 59 run plays, 49 pass plays.
Right.
I mean, that's a great mix-up between running and passing. It's just got to stay balanced, and I think the offense is doing that right now. Keeping the defense, not knowing what's coming next, is a great tool.
You know what's interesting is that first drive, though, in terms of we're not really throwing a bunch during the first part of the drive. We're actually running the ball. Yeah. And we're being successful. I'm thinking, so oftentimes I think to myself, as you mentioned, why don't we continue running the ball and doing some of those same plays because they were successful? I mean, that first drive, it is right now. Obviously defense will make adjustments, but I thought the guys ran the ball really well.
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify my point, when I say run the ball, I mean it's game management isn't just calling plays. It's when you call a play. So when I think of fourth and however many times it was when you're running a fourth and one play with Clint Chirkett lead option right or whatever, I mean, I'm not sitting here trying to say that it's a bad call, but what I am trying to say is that is a different situation where you put in a 205-pounder, you put in Elijah Wellman, and you say at least to Clint, follow Elijah. That's really where I'm getting at. Now let's talk about the defense. I'll start it off. I think that the defense is growing. They're growing. They're starting to have playmakers. Kwiatkowski, Worley. He's not going to get a lot of press, but Terrell Chestnut makes plays in front of him. He makes tackles. He bats down balls. I feel like the defensive line is sort of
missing.
Like down a milk carton.
Yeah,
where
they're
are
missing
they?
in action.
Where are they?
They're missing in action.
I'm going to step in here right there. They only had 163 yards rushing, and over half of that was on one play. You give up one bad play, breaks your back, doesn't mean that you had a whole bad game. I think the defensive line did show up as far as the running attack. It's just the moment that they did slip up was inopportune.
Right. I think the problem we're having, and what I looked at, is the guys' eyes. They're not being focused with their eyes, because whenever a quarterback can rush the ball 18 times for 161 yards, you're not reading your keys. Right. So they're not being disciplined with their eyes. So I think our defense needs to be a little bit more disciplined.
Willie, what's a key? What's a key for a defense?
Contain.
Well, just read your keys and just do what you're coached to do. And I know they're coached at a level that, they're teaching them to be fundamentally sound. If a guard blocks down, you know what you're supposed to do. If he pulls, you know what you're supposed to do. So I think a lot of times guys, they try to do more than what they're supposed to do on the play. So sometimes it's not my job to make the tackle. It's my job to force the ball back inside and let Scotty make the tackle. So in essence, I've done my job so Scotty could do his job. And if you look at the way Nick Kwiatkowski's playing, we funnel everything back into our Mike linebacker. So we have to be disciplined with our eyes and just be fundamentally sound.
One thing about that, on the defense, I think they were being too robotic. I think they were trying to do just their thing and not make it a play. I think they were just solely focused and trying not to get in trouble, I guess is what the word I'm trying to say. We've all been there. But they're trying to do their assignment and their assignment only. It's okay to come off and shed a block and go and fill somebody else's gap and get 2 gaps instead of just 1. But I think they're playing too much like a robot and not just flowing with the game.
Right. Hey, to kind of counter what you said about in terms of the yardage that they had rushing, the difference being Maryland is playing from behind. They had to throw the ball. So we had more opportunities to get sacks and big stops behind the line, and we missed them. In terms of we missed contain, I mean, we have to stay in contain. I mean, the quarterback had 161 yards rushing, and all those plays were all outside plays and missed tackling. That's unacceptable for a defense to have that many missed tackles in the game. We got to get better. I mean, West Virginia is we're, in my opinion, should be one of the better tackling teams. I mean, we like to be physical, and I think that 3-3-5 is designed for us to be a more physical team that are more sure tackled than we've been in the past. And I think that's one thing we'll end up working on.
Well, that 3-3-5 by definition means that you have to be a better tackling team because you have smaller guys, more athletic guys on the field, so they can't miss tackles. Right. They really can't. For me, the defensive line, it's not that they're playing bad, it's not that they're playing good. It's more so, I mean, we had a substantial lead.
Right.
Let's be honest, C.J. Brown has not thrown the ball well at all this season. In fact, when he got hurt, when was it Shaq Petway kind of had a little meeting of the minds there in the middle of the field. Is it Caleb Rowe came in, the backup?
Yep.
2 plays later.
He 2 plays later threw the ball where it needed to be thrown. And it's almost like that woke up C.J. Brown to be able to run the offense. For me, that defensive line, if they can set the edge, K.J. Dillon has improved so much since the Alabama game coming off the edge. Carl Joseph, same thing. Those guys need space to run into. They're not 220, 230 pounds. They need real estate to run into. So going into conference play, going into Oklahoma where you're going up against what? Let's just call it grade A beef. You're going up against dudes who are 6'5", 320 across the line.
Right.
You need a big brother to hold up that O lineman so that you can come across the end.
Right. Well, I like to say one thing, and I know a lot of people are upset about the outcome of the game. They're not upset about it, but they thought we should have won by more touchdowns. Should we have? Yes. But when you look at a game like this is a good game to have for these guys right now because, they were ahead and then they got in the hole, and these guys fought back. We saw what they were made of. Now, hopefully they know what they're made of, and they know that if we get behind, we can come from behind and win. And you need games like that. You don't want to blow everybody out. So when you get behind the 8 ball, guys don't know how to respond to it. So we had a game like that against Maryland. We should have beat them by at least 3 or 4 touchdowns, but we got behind the 8 ball. But they showed that they can come from behind and win a ball game, and that's crucial for a team at this stage of the season.
Quick question before we switch topics to talk about the special teams. Was this a statement game for Holgorsen and crew? As far as, I can't think back to a game other than the Orange Bowl game, which I'm not even going to count, where we saw this team, this program, punch their way out of a hole. I haven't seen that in a couple seasons. What do you guys think?
I think it was a great opportunity. And we talked about this at the beginning of the season, the game that needed to count. All right, we talked about the third game being the Maryland game that we needed to almost redeem ourselves from the previous year. And I thought we went out there and we did it.
And that Maryland game has always been a critical game on our schedule. Even my senior year, we were undefeated at the time, and Maryland came in and first 5 minutes, they were up 14-0, and we're looking around like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on here? But we fought back and ended up beating about 4 or 5 touchdowns, and we went on to be undefeated that season. So that Maryland game was always somehow crucial, and it kind of gives us some type of direction as far as how our season is going to be.
There was a stat of the 7 losing seasons West Virginia's had, every season they lost to Maryland.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Imagine that. Imagine that. All right, our last point on the WVU Maryland game, special teams. Now, if you want to talk about rocky roads or unevenness, I mean, there's some great things, i.e. punts blocked. Right. But then penalties, not covering, not tackling. I mean, what happens on special teams that, as a former player, we're like, that's not a good sign, that we saw on Saturday?
Usually special teams is crucial. And a lot of people think it's always offense and defense, but special teams can, and I always talk about flipping the field, because you can have a punt and you don't field it correctly. Instead of being, the ball on the 30 going in, now it's, you're on the 10, now you got to go 90 yards instead of going 60 yards. And it's also sudden change. The defense gets to stop, they come off the field, and they're sitting down, they're getting a break, getting a drink. We fumble the ball, next thing you know, sudden change defense, we got to get up all of a sudden and get back in the mindset of going back out and making a stop, especially when the ball is inside the 10-yard line, which happened. And, I think they only got a field goal out of it, but it's tough to come off the field and then come back on the field and have to play defense on a short field.
Mm-hmm. The thing that bothers me happened the first game. Put your heels on the 10-yard line. Don't go back. We talked about it the first game. It shouldn't happen again. Mm-hmm. Coaches got to be on there. Put your feet on the 10. If it's in front of you, go catch it, fair catch it, whatever. Mm-hmm. But you can't let our offense be starting on the 5-yard line.
Mm-hmm. One thing, and I think Coach Nealon would be proud of me, because he would say this to guys: special teams is for special guys. Mm-hmm. Every guy on that special team got to feel like, I got to make this play. I got to make it. When we had guys like Pac-Man Jones on special teams, in terms of being, whether he was a tackler or he was receiving the ball, those guys made special teams dynamic, right? And I thought our defense was a swarming defense when you played. You guys, we had a lot of guys that I always thought took special team as that special group of guys who were going to make a difference in the game. And I think that's the mindset that we got to have. And I'm sure that these guys, the next couple of weeks going into Big 12 play, will realize that we're really got to be more sound at special teams.
Well, one thing on it being a defensive guy, I was wanting to be on the punt team and the kickoff team. One, because kickoff team, you could go down there and they're receiving. Right. You can lay a free licking on them. Right. That was always fun for me. Right. But special teams to me is all about will and want. Right. I mean, it comes from within, and you got to say, hey, this is my time to shine right here. I can make a big hit. I can force a fumble, change the game around.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely change.
Great. Now, with the Maryland game over, again, a win's a win. Let's not sit here and try to make it anything other than that. We're stepping into conference play. Oklahoma is coming into town Saturday, ranked number 4 in the nation. Let's just say that they handled Tennessee. Former WVU receivers coach Butch Jones. Throw it to the panel. Start off with you, Scott. What are you seeing in Oklahoma that is different, or what the same compared to Alabama, which was the last big game that we played?
Well, I think they have a great offensive line, and I think our defensive line is going to have to step up to the plate this week. There's big guys. Of course, their running back Ford is out this week, but they do have a sophomore and a freshman coming in here to take the load. But I think we need to get them one-dimensional. I think if we can stop the run early and try to get ahead and try to force them to be one-dimensional, I think that's what we need to do.
And I agree with you on that, that we got to make them one-dimensional. But like you said, Ford is out, so now Samaj Perrine is going to get the bulk of the carries. And also their quarterback, Trevor McKnight. He's a game manager. He's not going to beat you with his feet like Brown did last week for Maryland, so you're not going to have to worry about anything like that. But we're going to have to be sound again and disciplined with our eyes, because any game that you play, and you play teams that are well coached and have great athletes, and I think that they have depth on their team, so that's going to be similar to what we went against with Alabama. So I think our guys are going to have to be disciplined. And we're going to take care of the ball and have long drives on the offense. We can't just, have 3 and outs, because you look at the defense for Oklahoma against Tennessee, 40% of the time they either knocked the quarterback down or sacked him. So our offensive line, like we talked about earlier, they're going to have to be sound. They're going to have to keep Clint Trickett clean.
And for the guys who are going to be making the plays for Oklahoma will be Trevor Knight, and his number one go-to guy will be Deron Neal. Our secondary is going to have to be able to cover those guys. I mean, if they're going to beat us, they're going to beat us with a balanced approach and being able to throw the ball deep on us. And we're going to have to find a way to stop that. And I think going into this game, when we play, anytime we play Oklahoma, since the last Fiesta Bowl, it becomes personal. I mean, it almost becomes personal in terms of this is going to be a good rivalry type of game where we go in and knowing that we want to show very well against Oklahoma.
This is another night game.
Yeah.
West Virginia and Morgantown,
Crank it up,
7:30,
baby.
7 o'clock game. The offensive line for Oklahoma, I don't think is ready for the noise that's going to be there. I think we can catch them off guard and try to mess up the plays a little bit. But they're going to have to try to do some play action passes because I think we're going to load up heavy on the run early and just don't get beat on the play action.
Right.
And one other thing, we can't turn the ball over against good teams. Now, that will hurt you. If you watch the game on Saturday night when Oklahoma played Tennessee, they played on a short field the whole time because they caused turnovers. They also had an interception return for 100 yards. Quarterback got hit a couple of times, got the ball on their side of the 50-yard line and had a short field. So, again, it's going to go back to our offense. We're going to have some sustained drives, keep our defense off the field, and keep them rested so when they are in the game, they can run to the ball and be physical.
You brought up a good point about the crowd noise and all that. We need that 12th man. So if you're out at the game this weekend, make sure that you're loud. Make sure that you are doing everything you can to give West Virginia the advantage with that 12th man. And I'm sure our fans will come up and step up big.
Yeah, well, let's focus briefly on that secondary. Daryl Worley suspended indefinitely. That could mean through Saturday, or it could mean he's back Christmas. Who knows?
Right.
Ishmael Banks is also coming back as well. You mentioned that the quarterback, he's a thrower. He is not C.J. Brown.
Right.
He does not. Let's just say he's not known to run well.
Right.
How is that? Those two personnel changes on in the secondary. How is that going to affect what the Mountaineers do? Because if we're honest, we know that Worley is one of the better cornerbacks in the nation. So he's effectively taking up at least a third, if not half the field, as far as a quarterback's eyes when he's looking to pass. He's taking that up. Now he's gone. What does that mean for our secondary and our defense this coming Saturday?
We talked about it earlier, and you were saying how many tackles, excuse me, that our other corner had, Terrell Chestnut, because nobody's really throwing the ball towards, Daryl Worley. Now he's out of the game. I'm not sure if it's going to be Ishmael Banks or I think we have another corner that played a little bit last year. No, I can't remember his name
Ricky
right now.
Was it Ricky Ron?
No, Ricky played a little bit, but those guys will have to step up. We don't have a choice. You can't say, we got to have Daryl. We need him back. He's out of the game. Somebody has to step up, and that's what good teams do. Somebody steps up when somebody's not available.
And I think the front guys can help camouflage that as well. If you bring pressure from either side or up the middle or just disguising what coverage you're playing, coming in and out, the 3-3-5 odd stack, it allows you to roam around a little bit and give him different looks. And I think we need to try to pre-snap confuse them.
Right. And I think you're absolutely right in the fact that we need that front more than we think because we got a young guy back there, Drayvon Henry, right? And he's going to need a lot of help. He's going to need a lot of help, and it's going to take us applying a lot of pressure early, so Drayvon's back there and he's getting more comfortable in terms of guarding those guys. That it's going to be very important that we get our front three to be very physical and get into the quarterback.
Well, we can't let that quarterback stand there. He's a pocket passer, like you said. He's not going to run the ball. So if we allow him to stand in that pocket and go through his progressions, look to one receiver, the second receiver, third receiver, by that time the secondary is going to break down, and that's when it puts pressure on it, and that's when that's not good when that happens. So we're going to need to put pressure on him. Can't let him stand in the pocket tall and go through his progressions.
Well, I'm going to ask you guys what's your one key point that the Mountaineers need to do this weekend. For me, you know what? Let's be honest. It's all about the offense. It's all about Trickett. As much as a defensive guy, as much as it pains me to say it, it's really all about the offense. But it's not about points, and it's not about yards, and it's not about Kevin White. It's not about Trickett throwing for 500. It's not about that. It's about controlling the tempo of the game. If that offense can control the tempo of the game and force Oklahoma's offense, to watch them go up and down the field, I'm telling you, it's going to energize that defense in such a way where they know that they really only have 40 snaps to work with, and they need to make 20 of them great. You're playing with a defense that is completely, it's loaded to apply pressure on an offense. But they can't do that for 80 snaps.
Right.
We're not there yet. Mountaineer defense is not there yet. So for me, it's about controlling the tempo. Trickett's going to throw for his 400 plus. Kevin White's going to get his 200 yards or whatever. Let's control the tempo. Start out, Scott.
I really think we need to win the turnover battle this week. I think it's going to be crucial. Like you said, we ran 108 plays last week and kept the time of possession in our favor. I think we need to do that again. And if we don't cough the ball up or throw any interceptions, I think it bodes well for us.
I think our offense, like you said, we're going to have to control the ball, but I'm interested in seeing how Oklahoma's going to play our receivers, because we got guys that can, run and catch the ball. So you're not going to be able to double team Kevin White, and you're not going to be able to double team, our other receivers. So, it puts pressure on them how they're going to play against us. And I like to see how that's going to happen. And again, I like to go back to, special teams and flipping the field. Last week, Oklahoma played on a short field the whole time, and that's easy. When you're starting your offense inside on the 50-yard line, the other side of it, you got 3 or 4 plays, and now you're in the red zone. Yeah. So I think that's going to be crucial to West Virginia, that we don't let them flip the field on us, and we start on our 10-yard line and have 90-yard drives. And we need to get some plays where we start on our 30, 35, 40, and have some shorter drives, but constrained drives that we control the ball and just go methodically down the field.
And like as you mentioned, Scott, in my notes I got more force fumbles and turnovers, and being able to capitalize on them. A few times I thought we missed some interceptions that could have been very, very key to us managing our game even more. We got to capitalize on those things. Better tackling. Those are my key issues this week, for us to be better at special teams and own the turnover ratio. And when those opportunities present themselves, we got to be able to capitalize on them.
And not only to elaborate on there is know the down and distance.
Right.
Know the down and distance. Get off the field on third down. If you're going to take a slack, if you do slack,
it can't be third down.
Can't be any slacks. Can't be third down.
Right.
Great job, guys. Well, what do you guys think? Tweet me your predictions at 7DEI2 on Twitter. Definitely check back with thedpost.com for more updates, and we'll see you guys next week.